Welcome back to the Leaders of Transformation podcast. How do you use futuring to align and design your ideal life? Our guest today is JB the Wizard, and JB has been working with CEOs and celebrities, helping them to get into alignment by removing mental blocks. For over 20 years, he's been in entrepreneurship, acting, directing, performing, public speaking, coaching others, uh, really using his unique system, which we'll get into, where he talks about futuring and getting people to their atomic core. And he has 6 children who've all been homeschooled. So amazing, full life, very vibrant. He's such a powerhouse, and I'm excited to have him here today to talk about how to unlock our potential by getting truly aligned. So, JB, welcome. Glad to have you here
Hey,
today.
thank you. Thank you for having me. Pumped to be here.
Well, we've been having such a great conversation. That's why I was like, we need to hit record because this is awesome. We're having this jam session. We're talking about all sorts of different things, changing the world. Nothing really major, but I want to be able to just share this with others as well. And but before we do that, I want to give a shout out to Courtney at Zippy Content because she's the one who made the introduction, and I just so appreciate. And gratitude is an important part of my life, and I encourage it to be I encourage you to make it a very important part of your life as well, as I know JB does as well. Um, is to appreciate those that support this show, and I'm a big advocate of doing that, and that includes all the booking agents, that includes everyone who refers a guest, and everyone who tunes in and listens and watches this. And so, thank you for being here with us today. I know it's going to be valuable. And thank you also for sharing it with your friends, giving us a rating and review on your favorite podcast listing platform, all those good things. Follow us on social so you can stay connected. But we just really appreciate you being here, and you have our commitment that we want to make this valuable right through from the beginning to the end of this conversation. So stay tuned for the whole thing. So with that, JB, let's start off with this. I use this term atomic core. I mentioned also futuring. What what are those things? Just kind of give us a context of where do we start? Because
Like,
sometimes
what's
what
going on?
happens, like if you don't know the term of like what a word means, people can get stuck on it, right? And then
Right.
they get hooked, and then they don't listen to the rest.
For
Or
sure,
is
for
that maybe
sure.
that's just me? I don't know. Could be
No, no.
just me.
So I created this word futuring, and what has happened is the shortest way that people tend to call it something is like life design. It's really I end off this part of the story of I'll see you in the present, which is the future you design. And futuring is a story. Everything is a part of futuring, however, at the same time. So the coaching, consulting, there's the original storybook is all part of the same thing. But futuring in general is really living in the present with the future that you design. And then the atomic core is gigantic, and it's really I call it the atomic core because in the same way a submarine goes out to sea and it doesn't have to recharge or get gas again if you like, it can stay out there for quite a bit because it has an atomic reactor there, a nuclear reactor there. There's the birds though, by the way, as I list the birds chirping because we're here at the Magic Cabin, right? So there's lots of birds everywhere. But what's happening is that the person themselves is able to tap into their own atomic core. This is extremely important because a lot of times people are, let's say, dependent on motivation or inspiration or even discipline. Now, I've been a martial artist since I'm 6 years old. I grew up military as well, so I'm not obviously against discipline. Discipline is key, but it's a sprinkle on the top because discipline is similar to a muscle that can get tired. And so, what we have with the atomic core is we want to tap into the atomic core, which never runs out of energy, which helps you to be consistent and to not give up when other people are giving up, if you like. And then you can sprinkle on discipline when necessary. You could sprinkle on a little bit of motivation, but not be reliant on the motivation and the inspiration. So that's the atomic core. And the alignment aspect of it is in order to see and access the atomic core, is we've got to be in alignment. So imagine just a tube. If the tube was kinked, we're not going to be able to get down or even see down into the atomic core. So we have to make sure that we get in alignment so we can access the atomic core and then plug all the different aspects of our life into our atomic core. Some people may call it like a why, if you like. So it's similar to that, but we're plugging into that atomic core, which we can only do once we get into alignment. So I can keep on going on that, but that's a gist of what that is.
Well, yeah, the why. I mean, there's a lot of talk about, find the why that makes you cry, that, tapping into the why you're doing something. But yeah, atomic core just has a different oomph to it, if you will, to think about
Sure.
this atomic core and also visual to it in terms of it, its solidity and what can come out of that. Very, very powerful. So, off with what are some physical expressions that indicate someone is out of alignment?
Sure.
We can talk about how
That's
you
great.
get back into alignment.
Sure. So anything, anxiety, stress, high blood pressure, obviously, um, uh, let's call it like just I guess some kind of an impatience, money, blocks, issues, confusion, lack of clarity, not knowing what to do next. These are all symptoms of one problem. What happens a lot of times is we are constantly addressing symptoms, but never dealing with the actual problem. And so, if we were to address the symptoms, it would be like taking an ibuprofen when you've got a headache, instead of realizing maybe you've got a headache because of something you may be eating or some other different reason, right? And so, it's not that we're against ibuprofen. It's just we want to know what the actual problem is. Then, if you want to eat that thing or do whatever, you at least know what's going on. That's your choice. But we can't just constantly pop the ibuprofen because it has an effect on the kidneys and other different problems, all of these things. So, similarly, if we have these symptoms of anxiety, high blood pressure, money problems, confusion, lack of clarity, stress, um, there there are actual other physical expressions like back pain that has been a thing with clients. Those are those are the main things that I believe that I've come across. But again, these are symptoms of the same problem of being out of alignment, if you like. And that alignment situation really comes back to who you are. The foundational principle is that you already have all the answers. So when people no one says this, but like they say, well, then what do we need to come to you for? you know, it's like, well, all I do is help you to access the answers you already have and know. That's it. That's all I do. So that's 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 it. So once you already know those answers and you have access to it, now you can take action on it. But so many times there's so much noise and not understanding where the actual problem is. You don't know where to look. You don't know what to take action on in order to solve the core problem. So you really end up getting nowhere.
Yeah, and that's an important piece because I notice a lot of times as a coach myself, people oftentimes will come to me because they want me to give them the answers,
Mm,
or they are looking for the answers outside of them. And if the answers are outside of them, it's kind of elusive thing. It's like you're chasing after something, right?
sure,
And
sure.
sometimes it's going to be present, and sometimes it's not going to be present. And it's if they're counting on me, then the responsibility and the onus is on me. Or
Hmm.
there's an excuse of like, well, this person or this situation didn't happen the way it should have, because if it had, then I would be clear and I would be aligned. And all of it, all this external stimuli is not the case. When you talk about like all the answers are inside you, it's like you carry that with you everywhere you go. You don't
Right,
have to be in you don't have to be in the magic cabin. You don't have to be any
right,
specific place. It helps, but you
right.
don't have to be any one place. The secret isn't the place. It's funny
Mm,
because I think about it just came to mind. I think about Jesus, who in the Bible he healed all these people, right? So he always healed them a different way.
mm,
And I think the reason why he did that is because he didn't want them to get hooked on the method, like this is the way to do it, right? To stay in their box
sure.
and realizing like that's not the answer. The answer is not outside, the answer is within. It's how he showed up, which gave him the ability to heal. And
Mm,
everyone has that ability to be able to tap into that truth within them. So really, really good. So how do we get into alignment? Once we know, let's say we know we're outside of alignment, or we're, we're we've got all those physical manifestations like you talked about, or several of them.
Mhm.
Back pain, of course, is a super common one. Chronic pain, super common, right?
Right.
So how do we get into alignment, get into that atomic core?
Right. So the major thing, since you already have all the answers, right, and then how do we access that? One of the challenging things we want to do is we want to quiet the noise. One of the most powerful things, I'm trying to think, the names that I have, the wizard, the alignment guru, I was called the Michelangelo not too long ago, right? These are names that were given from clients. I don't come up with these catchy, cool things, right? So those names are indications of how to get into alignment. So what happens is I create this environment. Some people call it like a non-judgmental environment, and I would almost say that's it. So how can you get into a space where you can then be able to listen to yourself? How can you create that environment almost a little bit, let's say, on your own? One of the major things is quieting the noise. I believe that there's only one message, whatever, religion or beliefs or whatever that you are, or atheist, it doesn't matter. I don't care. Whatever it is, there's just one message. Now we can all access that one message. So it's almost as if we're all these antennae, where we're each one of us is one antenna. So the more we quiet the noise, the more clearly we're going to hear that message. Now, what happens sometimes is people may be a little bit tuned in to the message and then a little bit not tuned in. So they might hear me like, bubble gum. I was like, wait, did he just say bubble gum? Like, no, 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 he said Coke and rum. Like, whatever it might be, right? Because that happens as we're tuning into that one message. There's only one frequency. So we really want to ourselves be able to obviously get into alignment, let's say, clean up, quiet our own noise so that we can hear it. So one of the a few practical things is I would not say like a social media fast because everybody says that. And to me, it's pointless kind of because what about after? So I don't like that. You know what I mean? I don't like that. And the thing with what we do is extreme balance. We want to do both. So a practical thing I would say is that we want to take action before there's incoming information. So an example practically, let's say you wake up in the morning. It's not about don't look at your phone because there might be things coming in, whatever, and you want to be in a peaceful state. It's not really about that. It's just that you have answers that are talking to you to whatever you're dealing with, whatever's happening, whatever you want to do in your business or leadership or life or whatever's happening, they're literally right there. And what happens is once we begin to hear things, that goes away. Think about it like chasing a cat, right? Think about it like that, let the cat come to you. That's what's happening with these. They're already there for you. They're literally there. And then the noise comes in, and then this goes away, and you're replaced with this ridiculousness, which would literally get you nowhere. If 92 to 95% of people are followers, what do you possibly think you can get from that area, right? So this is the aspect of becoming that leader who you are, right? So you're a leader. So how are you going to lead? You're just going to speak, do, take action on the information that you already have. So practically speaking, we want to do that before we check the messages, before our team contacts us, before any of these things happen. And this is one of the ways we can quiet the noise and take action on the answers we have.
The guest we had on last week, Glenn Lundy, he talked about that as well, and he said that, you know, if you look at successful people, all those successful people he had studied when he was first kind of getting into personal development and so forth, he looked at the common denominator, and they all had a morning ritual, every single
Mhm.
one of them. And I love what you said there. It's not like, yeah, because you do a social media fast. It's kind of like doing a cleanse. And I have done cleanses. I've done juice
Sure.
fasts literally for 40 days. And all of those things had a purpose specifically. I never recommended them to other people because
Right.
it was my purpose. There was a certain reason why I did it at that time. It's not sustainable though. You can't live that and operate in that all the time. So you've got to
Right.
find a, you know, an approach that, like I call it, a winning strategy for some of the,
Hmm.
the alpha males, especially that I talk to. They want the winning strategy. It's okay. Here's the winning strategy, but I love what you said there about it's like all of the answers are right there. And you think about what we do when we sleep, and you just like logistically, biologically, what we do when we sleep is our body regenerates, processes, digests our food, digests all the thoughts and all the things that we've had going on the day before, the weeks before, and then
Hmm.
here all those answers are right there, and it's like you got to
Hmm.
pick the fruit off
Right.
before the weeds come in and
Right.
distract you. And I've had that, get on Facebook and you're like, what, what was I gonna do?
Right.
What the heck? So
Right.
just clear that space for you. So that's really, really good.
That's exactly right. And it's crazy because even when it comes to the teams that you lead with your business, if when most of the time when things are posted on social media, if you like, or anywhere, I don't do email. I don't do email at all. So, but why? Because I have to. I I would say that it's not just the majority of my time. My work is being in alignment. Period.
Yes.
Like that's what it is, right? So preparing for this interview, this is I prepare for it emotionally, mentally, all kinds of ways. I prepare. This is my work. So when it comes to writing something or giving the information from the same source that we all have and getting that out to people, if I were to myself go onto a social media and then like there's blinking light, squirrel, tree, like whatever might pop, 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 that costs me so much money. And if we understand time is expensive and money is very cheap, we really, really understand that. We'll understand how much money we're spending on certain activities. And so if you could really understand what I'm saying with that, you would be terrified to ever press a social media button. Like you think you're nervous of spending $10,000, $20,000, or 5,000, or $100? Press that social media button. That should terrify you if you really understood it, right? So I'll generate this content, send it over to the team. I'm careful with the tools that I use as well. Um, Meaning, like let's say, like digital tools, different ones have a different, I don't know, frequency, energy, color scheme, person behind the development. All of that you could feel. There's a difference between Evernote and Drafts and I don't know HubSpot, WhatsApp. Each of Facebook, all of these things have different energies. And if you can understand what they are, you'll know how to tap into them. The way I think about them is the same way like weapons or a chopping knife in the kitchen. There's a paring knife and then there's a block knife and there's all these kinds of different knives. If you understand how to use the tools, then you understand how to use the tools. And
Yeah.
that's when I have my teams going in to do that so that I don't have this happening, but rather we have this happening,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. You're not going out there with a machete.
Right, exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
No,
then
that's
you get
really
chopped
good.
up.
And
My son was
you do get, yep,
yeah,
you do. Yeah, absolutely.
time
So
for
how
that,
did you learn this?
Yeah.
And I know that, you have worked with, and you've worked in Hollywood in that space for many years and have acted. And so like kind of give us a little bit of the background on how you became JB the Wizard.
Listen, even my sister, she's a bit older than me. My sister was like, "How do you know this stuff?" Right? But so my wife does think it has to do with the martial arts training that I did start when I was 6. I was a boy. I started with Okinawan Kenpo, and I am fascinated with the body. So my degree is pre-medical exercise physiology. I love the body, fascinated with it, how it works, and it happened when I was about 9 years old, growing up. I was in America at this time, and there was the sun was setting. It was California, and I saw people walking, and I was looking at them, and I was super duper into remote control cars, which one of my sons is also super duper into them. And I had one really good one, which was wireless, and a not so good one, which had a cord. Not as that was not as good as a remote control car. And I remember thinking, okay, I see how this one works. Wireless is super awesome, cool. How do the people work? Because there's no cord, you know. So it's like, how is that happening? How is this happening, right? And I that fascination never left, and that's what brought me to college with the pre medical aspect of it because I wanted to understand how the body works. How does it work? So in my sophomore year, I also knew though since I was going to be on television. I didn't worry about how either of these things were going to pass. It was just something that I was going to be on telly. I grew up watching in living color. You know, it was very funny, and I would reenact the scenes. So I knew those two things. I ended up getting a scholarship to go to college for the degree, and then while I was there was a film that was casting. My mom said there's a film casting. So I says, okay, great. I didn't really know what it was about, but I went and auditioned, and there's a story in and of itself in that one. And the long story, I'll try to make it short because it's a big deal. But I'm not super tall. I'm over 6 feet, you know. But the then at the time I also had this big afro, and I walked in, and then the guy was like, we want you to come back and audition for this part of the film, which was basketball." So I was training over the next week, preparing for the basketball audition. The day before the audition, this is a big film. This was an actual Hollywood film that came in. It wasn't like, no offense, it was just a big film. You know what I mean? So it's like, so then I sprained my ankle. Now here's the thing. I played sports. I played football, basketball, track, everything growing up, you know? And then, martial arts, all of this stuff. So I've sprained it 17, 18 times. Not a big deal. This was the worst of my entire life. It went just all these horrible sounds. I went up for a layup and I landed. I was playing with my dad. And I was on my back. And I looked up at him. I said, why? Why now? Why now? My brain was just, what? Like I've known. And then now it's the day before. It just didn't make sense. So then I said to my dad, I think my father said to me, because a lot of my power I get from him, he says, we'll go down anyway. So yeah, we need to go down anyway. I couldn't walk. My ankle was like a noodle, like a noodle. And this was not one where I could suck it up and walk it off. It was noodle. We went down the next day, still couldn't walk at all. And I limped. People couldn't see me. I like jumped into the side room and I got all this tape. Pop, 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 taped it up a certain way. And the interesting I realized later is my degree is pre-medical exercise physiology. So I learned a bit about taping, and it's so interesting how that comes together. So I taped it up a certain way, and I was like, okay, here we go. It was the best basketball playing I had done in my entire life. Some people you could call it adrenaline. I don't think it was adrenaline because I've had adrenaline. This was like literally an angel. A malach was like holding my ankle the whole time, and there were hundreds and hundreds of people there. Some guys were just flying and dunking, and I couldn't do that. But all my other stuff was good to go with it. But you couldn't tell that what was going on, and they got cut. They got cut. They got cut. All these people got cut. And by the end, I was still there. And I ended up getting a call. I didn't know if I made it by the end. And I was like, but I knew everything. I gave everything I had. So my father and I left, and I got a call a couple days later. He said, come down on for hair and makeup on Monday. What? You don't get more Hollywood than that. Come hair and makeup. And I got it. Right. And that was the beginning of just a ton of things. I ended up getting an agent who wouldn't represent me before I got the movie. Now he was excited to. So then he represented me. And then I continued on with the career. We moved out to Oklahoma at the time, and I connected with the producers of the Godfather trilogy and Children of the Corn director. And I said, I'm going to be a director. Can I shadow you? And he was teaching at a university. And he said, come to my classes. Whoa. So I did. And this was huge. And I met a buddy of mine, and then we went on to make some more movies. And things continued. Opened up a production company. I this is like skipping all the horrible things, right? But production company, got another big agent, got a television on Fox for the break, and then continued on. So at some point, you know, that I was going to direct, I was going to produce. A Fortune 500 company found me, a very great friend of mine. She said, I believe we could use your work, your filmmaking for the company for what we're working on. So they ended up, I was an independent contractor, made some films for them. And I was directing CEOs and executives and other people in this corporate area. And when it comes to acting, people think acting is pretending, but it's not. Nobody pays money to watch somebody pretend. Everybody in the whole world just wants truth. That's all anybody wants, ever. And when you're looking at somebody who's doing a good job acting, if somebody were not doing a good job, even if you're not a good actor, you think, oh, that person's not that really good an actor. You kind of know it. What's the difference? This person is telling the truth. This one is 100% present. That's all that's happening. So when it comes to acting, my job, as a director, is simply to help this individual be present, to be authentic, to tell the truth. And so when I noticed that that's the core of what I do, I continued to strip away other aspects of what I did to really focus on what am I really, really great at? Very great at helping people to be who they are. And so that's what got me into the coach consulting. And I really went there a little bit to be a public speaking coach at first. Because I was like, I've got all this experience. I've performed Broadway actors and Lou Diamond Phillips and all these people. So I really know what I'm talking about when it comes to public speaking. And that transitioned over to people hiring me for because I seemed happy and because they wanted alignment. I was like, wait, what? I'm a public speaking coach. And they're like, okay, okay. But and they were hiring me. I was like, what did you hire me for? Like, I don't know. You just seemed happy. It's like I seemed happy. I even have like a grouchy face sometimes. Like, what do I see? What do you mean I seem happy? And then they were like, I just needed to be in alignment, and that's what you just seemed authentic. So then I was like, well, let's don't call myself a public speaking coach anymore. Let's just focus. Let's just call ourselves this. And then that's when other things started happening for my clients. So I was coaching this one client, Charlie. This is where I got the wizard name from. And he texted me one day. He said, "What are you doing? What's happening?" He said, he's on the front cover of Runner's World magazine, Nike athlete, Grammy and Emmy award winner. And he says, what's happening with my business is just it's exploding. Things are happening, but we didn't talk about my business. He said all we talked about was me. I'm deleting your name from my phone, and I'm gonna write in the wizard because I think you just pop out the side of a mountain to talk to. And from that day on, I went by the wizard, and it was the most clear, confusing way to explain what it is that I do to people as opposed to coaching. I don't really like the idea of mindset coaching or life coaching. I don't like that. All of these type of things. It's like just the wizard, and then it stuck. And then different results started happening for other people. Like, oh my gosh, this opened up for me. This unlocked. I see why they call you older clients. Oh, I see why they call you. I see why we're calling you the wizard. Okay, so that's where I got the name the wizard from. And that's how I arrived at it. I noticed the thing that I was great at was really just being myself present and other people being able to be authentic with me because I just don't care. And I think I get that from my father. I saw my father interact with a lot of different types of people. And like a big memory I have is just a girl with a cerebral palsy and very bad. So she was, her head was bigger than that was happening, and then like she was in a wheelchair, but she could barely move the wheelchair like that. She was controlling it, couldn't talk. She could just kind of groan. And my father, some people get like a little bit uncomfortable in situations like that. I don't know what they're saying. I don't know what to say. My dad would just walk over to her. Hey, how you doing? What's going on today? Are you serious? Really? No, that's not what I think. And he would just talk. And it was like everybody else was uncomfortable. He was not. And that was she was his friend. And I saw him be authentic. And then I saw my father with very tall, powerful guys and this kind of lady and this kind of children. It was the same. And so that authenticity that my father is and has was my model. It's what I had. And so all I'm doing is giving people that same thing that I received, which is being looked at as a human. So my real superpower in real life is literally just listening. that's That's it. And people don't really understand what listening is. It's way more than like using these. To my family, we say we listen with our eyes. We don't listen with these. We listen here. And they all know that, right? So that's a story of how I got to this spot.
Wow. Well, there's so much in there that we can unpack. And when you finished off and you said about listening with your eyes versus your ears, maybe let's talk about that for a moment, in terms of what that means. I mean, I use the term like presence, and it's so funny. Actually, I do have to say this is so funny because when you talk about being the wizard, I've had clients tell me I'm like their lucky charm. They're
Oh,
like, I don't know, we talk to you, and then like good stuff happens. Like I'll
yep,
get a they'll have like a text that comes in and they've been waiting for something to
yes,
close or whatever, and we'll be on the phone, we'll be talking, and they're like discussing, okay, well, this and this and this or whatever, and they'll mention it, and then they're like, you won't believe it, I already got, like, it's done. The
right.
check arrived at my office while we're on the phone or just after,
Hmm.
and so forth. And what I think you know I use the word presence, but it's like that you're that clearing for people,
Hmm.
like you said, and just listening. So, talk a little bit more about how does someone learn how to do that? Who maybe has they've never, like, their idea of listening is listening, waiting for the person to finish because they're planning what they're going to say the next. Like that's what most
Hmm.
people,
Hmm.
when they think about listening, they're just waiting for when they get to talk. It's
Sure.
it's not even just a subtle difference. It's like a complete 180 for
Right.
what you're talking about.
I think when people understand what listening can do, it will be quite a motivator. Listening is the secret to making a crap ton of money. Listening is the secret to selling much more and much more efficiently. Listening is the secret if you're to a relationship, if the relationship even is a bit rocky, or if you're single and you want to get, you listen. Are you listening is the secret to parenting? If you just listen, I don't. 98% of people have no clue how to do this. If you just listen, people will think you're a rock star. They'll be like, "How can I call him again? How can I pay more money so I can be in her presence? How can just by listening?" Because no one does it, and so it's something that everyone is starving for. And so when you listen to a child, this is when no one else is taking them seriously or thinking they don't know something, but you treat them like a human, like a normal person. You can listen. My family has seen it. You can listen to horses. They see me speak with birds and respond back. They've seen it all happen because it's the same thing. There's only one frequency, there's only one message. So what happens with listening is words are very clumsy, very clumsy. And so beyond the fact that people are, this isn't like offensive, but just constantly lying. It's not even always intentional. It's just that we're afraid and we're protecting ourselves a lot, which makes sense because everybody, not everybody, but there's a lot of hurt happening. So, yes, we got to be defensive. I'm not saying, hey, just spew your stuff out there because that's the safe way to be. No, don't spew your stuff out there. 'Cause somebody else can. I call new ideas babies, and you wouldn't give a newborn baby to this person who's like yellow, green snot coming out here, hold my baby. You wouldn't do that. Don't do this with your ideas either. So don't. I'm not saying to be vulnerable. That's you got to be smart with it. There's a balance. So, but when we understand that words are clumsy, we understand that all I ever care about is what is the person actually saying. Actually, like in real life. So, meaning past the fear, past, let's say, the facade. And I don't even care that they have fear, facade, or lying. I expect that. So there's no judgment because we're all afraid. So it's like, I don't care. Just, can you just tell me what you're actually saying? And people are not used to that environment. And so sometimes they're clumsily looking as well. But just wait because we all want truth. When you give the person the time, the space, the environment to be safe enough to share that truth, they feel remarkable. And then you got the truth. This is a very, some people would call it a very sacred space. but like it is, and it's a beautiful thing that happens between these two human beings. And so the thing I would say to you is like understand it is the difference between a remarkable relationship, lots of money, being the leader you need to be for your company and for your team. Just listen for real to what they're saying. And until you know, you can do some of those techniques like repeat back to them what you think they're saying. You can do that. So you're saying blank, 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 blank. And they'll say, no. Okay, go ahead one more time. Oh, okay. So you're saying blank, blank. Yeah, yeah. And this is the beginning of communication. It can only happen through listening. And when I say with the eyes, the thing is, the thing with that statement is it just help. It kind of just like atomic core, right? There's nothing I'm saying that hasn't already been said. Nothing. So in my book, we talk about that. And there's actually Mesilat Yesharim, which is a Jewish book by Moshe Chaim Luzzatto. I'm Jewish, so so there's a book from him, and he says in the beginning of chapters, it's hundreds of years, I think 1600 something. He said, "No, I'm not saying anything new." Right? Shlomo Melech, which is we call him Solomon, King Solomon. He said nothing new is created under the sun. There's nothing new under the sun. There just isn't. So all I'm doing is saying it in a way that you can hear it. So if I said, so when I'm saying listen with your eyes, it just causes you to tilt the head a little bit and realize it's more than just the ears. Most of my phone calls, they all were done just with through the ears, like no video. So it's like, wait a second, how are you listening with your eyes? Because even your eyes aren't your eyes. It means listen with your whole self, right? Wait for the truth. This is what we go. This is what we all want, and then create the environment where that can happen. So that's that part.
Yeah, it actually brings up a good point is that I know I started my coaching on the phone, and so I wasn't on video, and now I do them all by video. But the it almost can be a crutch. What I noticed is though doing it on the phone, I had to listen more intently,
Yeah,
and it
sure.
trained me to listen to what you're talking about. It's like this: we learn when we learn to really listen and to hear what's being said and what's not being said. There's so much more there, and that's really really powerful. So you mentioned in your book. Let's talk about your book before we wrap
Sure.
up here. Um, Alignment Alchemy. It is available on Amazon, Audible, Kindle, and you have a gift for our listeners.
Yeah, go to connectwiththewizard.com. And there's a really cool little slot there where it says, what color shirt are you wearing? In that spot, write LOT or free audible book or anything you want to write tells me you're coming from LOT. Here's a transformation from Nicole. And then put in an email, and somebody from my team will send you the first, let's say, 10 people. There's codes for the 10 people. The code to go get the book for free. So that's the gift. And then
Cool.
in
And
there,
the
there's all kinds of other ways you can connect. Like on Instagram, it's JB the Wizard. Everywhere, it's always JB the Wizard. But go to connectwiththewizard.com, and that's the way to do it.
awesome. And in Alignment Alchemy, your book, what can they expect?
Yeah, right, exactly. So, a really beautiful thing somebody just publicly wrote the other day after reading it is that she has been working on personal transformation for years, personal development and things like that. And a lot of my clients, and I like Tony Robbins, but a lot of them come from Tony Robbins or this sort of motivational stuff, and they know the concepts, but they weren't able to put them together and then be able to apply them to their own lives. So, in alignment alchemy, it will show you the things you probably already know, but haven't been able to apply and put into action. It will give you those ingredients. So, the alchemy aspect of it is here are the ingredients, getting them into alignment so that you can make magic in your own life. So, it's really going to help you to apply the things you already know, especially if you feel stuck, especially if you get a little bit caught up in your head, you don't know the next steps to take. So that's what it'll be.
Brilliant. Thank you, JB. I appreciate it. Now, just as we wrap up, final thoughts, and I'm just thinking about like you have 6 children, and what is the legacy that you want to leave for them?
Oh yeah. Futuring, futuring without question, futuring. When I was growing up, my father was in the military, and I never quite really knew what he did. I couldn't figure it out. Like, but what do you do? And I work with the big guns, but like, what do you do? I couldn't figure it out. And so my children range from 3 months old all the way up to 12. And we were on a talk the other day, and we actually just did a podcast just yesterday with one of my daughters. And I said, "Babe, what else would you say that we help people with?" And she said, "If you're stuck in your business," she's like, "Nah." She's like, "If you're stuck," and they were just explaining exactly what I do, what alignment is, right? And what futuring is for you to literally be able to be you. And so the legacy that I'm giving to my children and to the world is really what I got from my father, but packaged in a way that's accessible to the entire world. So the legacy is that they will be whomever they are. Because if they could do that, oh my gosh, that's freedom. That's real freedom. The money comes, the health comes, the positivity comes, the relationships, everything comes. And that mental freedom and clarity is there also. So freedom is just the tools to help them to be them. And then however they want to be involved with continuing this message out into the world, awesome. And they're all pretty active. I used to have a thing that they all send me, "Have a good show, Dad. Let's go wizarding," right? They're all different parts of the company and the business. From design, we're working on the theme park, we were working on the books, drawing, stories. They are all part of each part of it. So that's the legacy and that's my passion.
I love it. I love it. Thank you very, very much for being here and sharing this space with us here today. Thank you. I
Thank you
appreciate
for
it.
having me. It was wonderful speaking with you. You're doing some great stuff.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. You
Yeah.
know what? Everyone has a piece of the puzzle of this, like you talk about bringing these things together. And if we,
Mhm.
I had this vision probably almost 15 years ago, and I said, imagine, and it kind of sounded Pollyanna, but I see it coming into fruition now, and it's so cool. But imagine if everyone in the world, and you just touched on it with your kids, if everyone in the world would just play to their strengths and do what they were meant to do, it would solve so many issues,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
we wouldn't have any issues. We wouldn't have like
Right.
people just do you, do what you were called
Right.
to do, and do what you're meant to be, and no judgment. It's like we could all appreciate the different strengths in each other and how it's like the body you mentioned about the body. I mean, you know, the the hand doesn't say to the foot, "I have
Yes.
no need of you." Like
Yes.
it is just there's different parts, and it's sometimes the hidden parts are actually the most valuable parts. So it's not
Yeah.
like you have to be the one on the stage, all the
Mhm.
time to be valuable. It really is. It is a joint effort, and every part of the body matters, and every person matters. And so I just had this picture, and I was like, wow. And then I thought, oh, we're a long way away from there. However, even in the short period of time in that 15-ish years, um, not just the work I'm doing, all the work that people are doing, I can start to see that coming to fruition. A lot more people are inviting that in and seeing that how powerful that would be, and it's coming to them because, like you said, there's the one message, right? It's coming
Mhm,
at
mhm.
people at different levels, and it's so powerful. So, and you're a huge contributor to that, and I thank you for that. And yeah,
So
and
that thing is yeah.
Mhm. Go ahead.
That's that featuring aspect. We were looking at doing featuring Fridays. So when we
Yes.
connect, right? We're on Telegram. The best way to probably get connected with that is go to connectwiththewizard.com and then just follow on Instagram at JB the Wizard, because what we're working on is for us to share that featuring story, which is about 8 to 10 minutes. We want to do it on Fridays, featuring Fridays, where we get each person to come in at 8 to 10 minutes to just listen to the broadcast of the featuring story. At the same time, from around the world, our goal is 2 million people, and that's it. Just to come in, and it is such a powerful story from the testimonies we get once people hear it. where they're just elevated, they just feel empowered. Imagine 2 million people at the same moment, the same time, hearing the same thing. It empowers all of them at the same moment. Craziness. That's the goal. Very global, and that's going to be featuring Fridays, and that is coming. We are preparing for that in the next coming weeks.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, maybe even by the time this comes out, that'll be live.
Yes,
So
yes,
connectwiththewizard.com is the key place to go to find out all the things that JP the Wizard is doing. Highly encourage that. I believe that leaders of transformation take action. And sometimes that action could be just to be still and tune in, but it is an
right,
action, it is an intention.
right.
And in this case, the action of going to connectthewizard.com, connectwithwizard.com, going, getting a copy of Alignment Alchemy, getting the first few people, they'll get the code and they can get it free. But even regardless, if you have to pay for it, it'll be worth it. Just get it. And we just highly encourage you to take action and apply what you've learned today in your life, because that's where the transformation happens. And so we'd love to hear your stories. You can go on leadersoftransformation.com, reach out to us there. We'd love to hear your feedback. You can, of course, can follow us on social, and we just love to hear from you and hear how this is impacting your life. And so again, thank you, JB, for being here. Thank you all for listening and tuning in and sharing it and supporting and continuing to support the show. And we look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Leaders of Transformation next week.